Sonic the Continuation, Issue 7. We start out with Sonic being told by the human American president via hologram, as you'd only know from the previous issue when you should be shown it here, that various governments and corporations experimented with the technology that Colonel Granite used to reach Mobius. After, of course, the revelation that aliens existed was a cultural shock to those people. The scientists were dabbling in areas that they didn't fully understand, and he says the results were predictable. Then he goes on to say that energies were released, which for the past 3 months have been ravaging the Earth's ecosystem, and the planet will be uninhabitable in a little over a year. That's not predictable. That's stupid. That's convoluted. That comes out of nowhere. The only reason I can imagine this would be a thing is that it's like leaving on a portal that sucks things into it like a black hole, like the Stone of Silence portal. They're trying to make interdimensional portals and they were too strong. But that wouldn't explain why the energies would be spreading all across their planet instead of just staying in one place. This is a creative excuse for an apocalypse plot, but it's a very weak excuse that makes the whole thing seem forced. An apocalypse plot by itself is cliche. Of all the different problems they could have had, like they could have had an alien invasion problem, like aliens threatening them with war, that would have been better. To save whatever is left of their planet, the only solution is to make Mobius and Earth become one. Somebody wasn't a very big fan of the two worlds idea, which was in STC first. Somebody was a big fan of Archie when writing this comic. Well, that explains a few things. Grimer's called insane at the UZA conference hall for even suggesting this. Probably because having to deal with humans would be a cultural shock, and they wouldn't want to share their planet with him all of a sudden. It's not insane because it endangered the planet, because Robotnik fused Mobius with the microverse planet Shanazar, and that turned out fine for everyone. There's no mention of wars. Sonic naturally still wants Grimer in jail. He's rational enough to want that even after he saved him from Metal Sonic when he was too stubborn to just run away from him. Grimer says that as an Earth ambassador, he enjoys diplomatic immunity. Someone ought to tell the people of Earth why Grimer doesn't deserve that. I'll never forget what he did to Sonic in SCC Online. He says that the governments of Earth will share a great deal of wealth if Mobius agrees to the merger. Sonic just calls it a bribe that people shouldn't fall for. I think he's letting his past grudge against Grimer completely cloud his judgment. You'd think that a hero, a good person, would immediately be okay with doing whatever it takes to save the lives of billions of people when their planet is dying. It doesn't matter if Grimer is the spokesman for the plan to save them. That doesn't make it evil. I won't blame the government for agreeing to this. I hope I'm not expected to side with Sonic here, because this isn't the Council of Acorn situation. It's saving lives. So of course, the council agreed to the world blend. And reporter Sally even references the Shanazar incident. She says that the project will be overseen by Grimer in exchange for a full pardon for his previous crimes, which he clearly doesn't deserve. So public response has been mixed. I'm surprised that Shortviews thinks of it as abusing their planet and believes that they don't have the right to do that when he's supposed to be a hero, one of the freedom fighters. And I never heard of any negative public response to the Shanazar merger. I think he's only mad at this because Grimer's involved with it too. It would have been good writing if he was complaining about Grimer being pardoned, but this is ridiculous. He doesn't even say that he just hates humans, which would have made sense because the only contact humans had with Mobius was an invasion attempt. He would have had a stronger argument if he said, couldn't those humans find a different planet to merge with? Because there's plenty of other dimensions. They could have merged with the Mirror Zone. Marcio at least has the decency to agree with this. Sonic refuses to comment. So out of character. He does realize that Shanazar's merger was fine, right? That didn't abuse the planet. I never heard of it being inconvenienced by it. It simply changed. It's weird to be hating the heroes for being totally selfish and wrong while agreeing with the council on something. And after all of the mystery that the Council of Acorns put me through, I actually find it refreshing and satisfying that a council was actually in the right for once. That's long overdue. It would be better writing if they were written to explain themselves, though. Even the Council of Acorns at least said that Ixis was too powerful. Having them say it'd be selfish to let billions of people die, Earth needs our help. Wouldn't be hard. On the spot where Robotnik's citadel once stood. Jeez, what a tasteless place to put the tower for the blend. A second tower is being built in London in the same relative position, and the plan is to activate both devices at the same time. Okay, we ran into another continuity error. I can tell that the writer forgot about past continuity. This is trying to imply that this is the only way a planet merger can work. But that's obviously not the case. There was no equivalent tower on Mobius when Shinazar got merged with it. It was only in Shinazar. I don't remember there being a huge tower to facilitate this. Just a device inside of a castle in Shinazar. No one referenced a tower like that in Mobius. If there was a huge metal tower like this, wouldn't I have remembered it because it would have stuck out like a sore thumb in the Shinazar desert? The reason this continuity error is a huge problem is because obviously Eggman would have had to escape Shinazar to build a tower on Mobius if he had to do that for the merge. And then even if he did use Fang's shrinking and growing device to do that, people would have spotted him on Mobius when he was building the tower, and he'd be swarmed by freedom fighters and stopped long before he'd have built it all. The tower would have been hit by missiles and bombs. But it makes sense because that's the only inhabitable planet they know of. Still, all they'd have to do is send Techno over to Earth, and she'd be able to change the coordinates on the dimensional machine, and just have them fuse with a different planet that they don't have any bad blood against. There's protests over it, and the construction will take 2 weeks. Was Sonic stuck in Shinazar for 2 weeks? I don't remember. If it was supposed to be the same amount of time as people were dealing with the Shinazar arc when reading it, it would have been way longer than 2 weeks, because it takes 2 weeks for one new issue of Sonic the Comic to come out. Amy says she hasn't seen Sally since she moved out of Emerald Hill Zone. Are we gonna learn why she moved out? Better job opportunities? I guess she did it to become a reporter, and there were no openings available in Emerald Hill. But we won't be told that. Amy and Sonic casually interacting with her like they're longtime friends seems so un-STC. But at least that means it's new enough to keep my interest. I'd rather see an idea that's new to Sonic the Comic, even if it might be dismissed as a bad one. It's not like it's a plot hole. Although there is a minor continuity error because we've never seen Amy interact with Fleetwee Sally ever. And yet she's not acting like she's meeting her for the first time. We're supposed to just assume she's talked to her off screen before this point. But this fan comic already played fast and loose with SSC continuity literally dozens of times. So I'm not gonna not mention this at that point. Amy says that she heard Mobius and Earth described as sister planets once. When was that? She says that this merging is probably meant to be. Where is Earth's equivalent of Emerald Hill Zone? Instead of coming out in favor of it for that out of nowhere reason, what she should have said is that she's in favor of saving billions of people. I just hope the fan comic keeps a ton of Mobius' original geography instead of mostly just replacing it with Sonic Unleashed geography and Sonic Adventure geography. Which would be really lame because it removed the world building of Fleetway, which is a huge part of its originality and therefore appeal. I don't want only game settings. At that point it would just feel like Archie. Sally's told that she made a mistake becoming a reporter as she's got the sense of adventure needed for a freedom fighter. Sally laughs and says that after her brother stole Sonic's shoes and tried to be a hero himself, she thought that being a rebel was too dangerous. And she thinks that she was a bit too quick to make that decision. Well, it does make sense that Sally, someone cautious, would think that. Because she didn't have the extra motivation to be a freedom fighter that having her father sent to the Zone of Silence would provide. Amy thinks it's amusing that someone stole Sonic's shoes. Since she reacted like that, if Sonic anticipated that he'd be made fun of for it, then it makes sense that he didn't tell her that in all that time despite being friends with her because he was embarrassed. Sonic then spin dashes and wall jumps and gets mad at Techno for helping out with this. Can the writer please just have someone tell Sonic that saving people's lives is a good thing? It's so cringeworthy to see him treat a friend and freedom fighter like a traitor for this. He just tells her off for trusting something Grimer has to say. It's not like Grimer has one of those magic stones that Robotnik wanted to use that would have made him the ruler after the two worlds would have been merged. Because only Shinazar has those. And he's been here ever since he came back, so he's been under supervision. Grimer reassures her that it's alright and wants to have a chat with Sonic. I want someone to hug her. She deserves an apology. But it's nice that he got Sonic off her back. Finally, Grimer tells Sonic that this is about the survival of 2 entire planets. Okay, how is this about Mobius' survival? How do you screw up How do you screw that up? He finally explains that Eggman's intent was to have the merging of Chunazar and Mobius be so chaotic that he could simply march in and re-establish his empire. Chaotic. That must mean there'd be so much death and destruction from the telebreaking that it'd give him a good enough distraction. Grimer says that plan was a very dangerous flop with larger consequences than anyone realized at the time, because apparently Mobius is in just as much danger as Earth is. I'm getting Pender's 25 years later flashbacks. Too bad he doesn't explain why the true effect would be an apocalypse. Just like in Archie, why would it take so long for it to be dangerous? He says that the imperfect merging of Mobius with Chunazar was why so many portals opened to various places. It was the result of dimensional flux. Long before the Chunazar arc even happened, it was specifically explained by a magical ring that was called the Spirit of Mobius that Mobius is a kind of dimensional nexus, which is the reason why all those portals to other universes kept showing up there. Apparently the barriers between zones are weaker. Portals opened up to past time periods on Earth, but still, portals to other universes showed up all the time before that merged, didn't they? Right after Torfuse was reunited with after Robotnik was taken down, he couldn't adjust to giving up life as a hero, and conveniently a portal showed up to another dimension because someone needed help. Although Techno did say that the barriers between universes were weakened right after the Chunazar merge happened. That's not gonna have this make sense. What took so long then? Why not right away? How would that be the cause if it happened so long ago? I assume we're supposed to believe that portals to other dimensions might start showing up on the planet itself and start tearing it apart. But what was keeping them above the planet for all that time if the direct cause happened months ago? Though this does make more sense than the planet's core being on the road to explode in 25 years later, Grimer's not doing a good job explaining it. So of course Sonic doesn't want to believe him. It just sounds like a convenient lie for Grimer. Techno gets knocked out from behind by Metal Sonic, as I wonder why I'm supposed to believe that a second planet merge would save both planets from death, when the planet merge was the whole reason Mobius was in danger in the first place. So that would create even more unstableness in the long term. It's not like Mobius is merging with the stable planet. Metal Sonic overrides the main system controls and gets granted remote access after interacting with something. Then Grimer loses control of the computer of the merger system, and Robotnik shows up in his Eggmobile. He says he's impressed that Grimer worked out all the bugs in their old dimension blender. There were bugs? Why would he admit that? Or accept that? Both of them had plenty of time to work out the math. I still have to pretend they're using magical stones to make a dimensional blender even possible, because that doesn't sound like something science could accomplish. It was less forced in Chunazar because there were magical stones and stuff there, and Robotnik employed a wizard at one point. Robotnik says that he's activated the device, and in 15 minutes the merger will begin. Grimer says the Earth isn't ready because their tower isn't complete yet, even though it has time machines and this planet doesn't. So clearly it's ahead of Mobius. Eggman says domination or destruction, either way Mobius' fate is his to decide. And he says that Grimer should know better than anyone. So does that mean he hasn't changed and he still wants to destroy the world? Which only makes sense because he's only evil because he absorbed all of the world's evil with the machine. I have to assume he doesn't believe what Grimer's saying about Mobius being in danger, or doesn't care if he gets destroyed with Mobius. In which case, he really didn't get snapped out of his insanity by one speech from Zachary, and it's the writer going back on that as he should. He's got his motivation back, but he still wants to destroy the world. Grimer says Sonic has to stop him, and Sonic says satisfyingly, "Finally, you said something I can get behind." Metal Sonic attacks Sonic, as Grimer says that Eggman's no longer the man he idolized and maybe never was. It sure is uncharacteristically brave of him to refuse to be at his side even at a time like this where it's do or die. Meanwhile, he worked for the Metalics just fine because his life was being threatened. Good thing he got some character development. He says he's developed a lot more than a backbone, and calls the gun command center to request emergency backup. And Lieutenant Topaz shows up through the portal with soldiers for backup. She first appeared in Sonic X, so once again, this is something that only a fan comic would get to do. It's exciting actually. Whenever the comic does stuff like this, it's doing stuff that some people might dismiss as a bad idea for purely emotional, irrational reasons, when it's not like it's a plot hole, and its only crime is being new. Doing something people might disapprove of is taking a risk, and when it's a good idea, it's a good risk. And I haven't seen that kind of writing since pre-Flynn early Archie. Why not have Topaz in this universe? It's already a fan comic on DeviantArt. It'll never be canon anyways. It's allowed to do this. Though it does make SEC Online look cowardly when it's not too afraid to, say, have Sally look like Archie Sally. And yet when you see Nicole and Mina and Sonic the comic online, you're supposed to immediately know that they're just non-canonical cameos. Meanwhile, this comic has Sally look like and be treated like Archie Sally. And it didn't get cancelled after enduring a gigantic storm of furious backlash. I think there was positive reception. So that was fine. When I see a story actually use cross-continuity characters, and I see the story continue to unfold, like 6 for example, it makes it plain as day to me that there's nothing really wrong with it. There's no logical reason to be too afraid to do it. 6 showed up in SEC Online, so why not keep doing stuff like that at that point? This issue by Akira was about Earth being in huge danger for no logical reason just because of the mere existence of interdimensional technology. So what took so long then? That technology was made so long ago, and when it's agreed to make a tower for a planet merge to save the Earth, Robotnik shows up and takes control of the tower after I'm expected to believe Mobius is in imminent danger too because it had merged with Shinazar. Even though that was a long time ago. And Grimer's point would have only been proven if we saw portals open up in the ground itself. Even if Mobius was only being slowly threatened, you'd think there would have been earthquakes. 6 King of Ghosts. We started out with 6 looking at a pyramid on Angel Island and being interested in whatever crazy stuff is inside. It's interesting to see her be more of a daredevil than paranoid. She wonders if she should ask Knuckles if it's okay to go in, and then entertains me because she says as if she's in front of him, "Great Guardian of the Island, give me a sign! Go in and loot everything you say." Okay. I've always read her dialogue while hearing her voice from the show, and it fits right in. Even then, it's still surprising to see her interpreted as someone who would love to loot a pyramid. But at least that's new. She's not someone who's used to fighting robots to protect a village like in Sonic Boom. She's not someone who's constantly used to having to be a hero because of her friends. So of course she might have a different morality with a different life. She wanders around in a dark room and arbitrarily doesn't believe in ghosts when she believes in conspiracy theories. Although to be fair, I don't remember her actually saying she believes in conspiracy theories in Sonic the Continuation. The point is, she's supposed to be paranoid and she lives in a universe where ghosts make their presence quite clear. Captain Plunder has a ghost shipmate that hangs around him all the time like it's nothing. So 6 would have known about ghosts existing. And a whole bunch of ghosts threatened people, and Tails had to lure them into a different time zone to save everyone. So you think 6 would remember hearing about that. Oh right, she has amnesia because she was tested as a battery for the biological computer Eggman made. I forgot because it was so arbitrary. Still, she lives in a world full of magic and magical jewels. Anyways, it's entertaining that when she sees a friendly female ghost, all she does is say, "Oh, I was wrong. Pardon me for intruding, I'll just be leaving now." She believed in evil spirits in Sonic Boom. She then gets snuck up on by King Boom Boom and asks to run away from him. It's new that he's in Sandopolis instead. If he didn't feel like listening to her interesting revelation about what Robotnik did to her brain, why did he politely stand there and wait for so long before chasing her? He would have immediately killed her. She gets given directions by a mute ghost girl and pulls a lever to turn on the lights. And she relatably can't say a long word she just made up. Then it goes dark again and she gets snuck up on by ghosts and runs away. So that was the end of the story? Why is it called King of the Ghosts if she was scared by them? And is a girl. This story by Akira was about 6 being scared by a ghost in Sandopolis and told to get the lights on by a friendly one. Who's probably the ghost from Night of the Werehog, one of the Sonic Unleashed shorts. It had barely any plot, 6 acted quite different from how you'd expect, and it was forced that the big ghost just stood there for so long instead of immediately going after her. Why did they even want to go after her in the first place? What did they have to gain? She was making a wild assumption about their motives. So there's no proof that she was right. But it was a good story because 6 was so entertaining.